Hey, welcome back to Enduring with the Perez's. My name is Raquel. This is my husband.
David, hi, welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome back.
So, last week we talked about our marriage. We're still going to be talking about marriage today. But last week specifically, we talked about boundaries with other people, especially specifically the opposite sex. And today we're going to talk about mistakes that we made in our marriage, how Jesus has helped us, and just things we learned over the years. In October, it'll be 7 years we've been married. Right now, it's like 6 years. But anyway.
6 3/4.
6 3/4.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you can go ahead and start. David's going to list out some things, and then I'm going to also join.
Yes, I have my notebook, my notepad. So there's 4 things that I wrote down, and there's more, I'm sure. Or there is more, but these are just for today that came to mind off the top of my head. First one is choosing our feelings over the truth, and I think for me is I used to be scared to hurt your feelings instead of just being honest and tell you the truth, and in the end, like it was just, or it's wrong, right? Because I'm lying to you, but
oh, you mean when I would like ask you questions just about like situations? And I gonna admit, like, I'm also really bad about asking questions about David's past. I think I just want to know that it's like the story never changes and like what he said the first time is the truth. But yeah, he's like, I think for a long time he would be really like awkward when he would answer me about his past. But I genuinely want to know, not so that I could, what do you call it? Condemn you for it or anything like that. I just like genuinely want to know.
Yeah, and like I thought I was by sparing you the truth. I felt like I was like protecting your feelings, but I think really it was me thinking I didn't want you to see me differently or in a different light, and so that was a big one for me.
Where I think before we actually built our relationship with Christ, I was very judgmental and I did look at you differently. And I was like, how dare you, kind of thing. But I think after, especially, I mean, right after we gave our lives to Christ and I would ask you about your past, I wasn't like super graceful with you, like showing you a lot of grace. I would still be really judgmental and like make you feel ashamed of things that you did before you met me. But after, I think, building my relationship with Christ, it's been like 4 years now, I think.
Yeah.
Since we've been saved, because we both got saved in 2020. COVID. Yeah, during COVID.
Yeah.
So I think after building building my relationship with Christ, He's like shown me grace, and I've accepted that, and so I've shown you grace over time. So it doesn't happen overnight, okay?
Yeah.
It's
Also, I still think it's awkward, like answering questions. I don't like it, but I answer them knowing that like you want to know, So yeah. Second thing is being empathetic and
not
just hearing
sympathetic.
You. Yeah, not sympathetic, but empathetic, and just like hearing you.
Yeah.
So for those of y'all that might not know what empathetic means, what does empathetic mean?
It means like looking at it from their perspective. So sympathetic is like, oh, poor you. Well, at least this. So, like, for example, I'm trying to think of an example using ourselves, but then I'd rather use something else. So, like, okay. So, like, let's say you are feeling like depressed, right? And then you're like, oh, well, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go anywhere. And then the person you're telling is like, oh, well, at least you're not sick. At least you're not dying. Like using that as an example, like, well, at least this. And you're basically in a better situation.
Yeah, well, at least, yeah. And I used to see it as like being optimistic. And I still see it as being optimistic, but that's not what you want every single time. And go ahead.
Well, like, we haven't talked about it yet, and we said we are going to, and we will talk about anxiety and depression, because I've experienced both. And David was so bad at like showing empathy in those moments, and he would try to be like positive, and that's good. Like, be positive, but also sometimes I don't want you to solve the problem. I just want you to be there and listen to me, which
Yeah.
is what empathy is: being there and listening to the person, and not always trying to solve the problem, because sometimes there isn't a problem that you can solve. And that's where Christ comes in. Only Jesus can help.
Yeah, and I
a lot
think
of times, or
no,
for me
Jesus
anyway.
helps
Jesus helps
every
all the
time.
times. Yeah.
But I think like
But
as
I
a
mean,
guy,
sometimes he
well, as
uses
a
people.
guy,
Sometimes he uses people.
yeah, but as a guy, like that's what we want to do. Like we want to fix the problem,
Mhm.
you know. So I think that's why I do that. Which again, it's not a bad. It's not even a bad thing to like want to fix the problem, because we like I want to help, but learning that sometimes you just like need to get it off of your chest, like that's what you want, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think it is fixing the problem still by you saying what you're going through, and then us praying about it afterwards, because that's like taking it out of our hands and like letting
Giving it to
God,
God.
like yeah, letting God really like move in that area of your life,
Yeah.
or whatever the situation is.
Whatever, even like if it's a problem or not. But like any problem is a God-sized problem. Like,
Mhm.
doesn't matter how small or how big it is, God can fix
Yeah,
it.
and I think that's something like we don't go to him enough with, like not just our problems, but with any situation, our praise,
Anything,
like
yeah.
or even like our even like a question, right? Like you had asked me the other day, like what should we, or what do I want like fixed around the house, and I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
and I was like, yeah, I think this, I think that, but I didn't. I mean, we didn't pray about it,
Yeah.
which we should.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah, I just.
So something about prayer, which we talked about in our last video. If you want to go see it, it should be up here, one of these boxes where we talk about boundaries, and we mentioned prayer a little bit in there. But something I've learned is that if you don't feel like you need to pray, or you don't think like prayer is important, then I feel like that's pride. Like you being prideful, like I don't need to pray, like, or you don't want to pray out loud because you're like shy or you're nervous or whatever. I feel like there's a sense of pride in that, and you need to pray. Like, it's very important to pray. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. You should ask for help, and Jesus is our help. He came to save us, but the Holy Spirit is our helper too, and He commands us to pray. The Lord commands us to pray in His Word, like pray without ceasing. So we should pray. Don't allow pride to keep you from praying.
Yes. Any more on that topic?
No.
Okay. Number 3 is communicating my feelings, which I'm still learning how to do.
Yeah.
I'm still learning how to communicate, period. So that's why in a lot of these videos, like y'all see her talking, it's because my mind's going like 100 miles per hour. So whenever like I do get asked a question, or I'm asked to do something specific or say something, I'm like, I don't always have an answer because my mind's like
Yeah.
in other places.
I think also with that though, I'm really bad at cutting you off. And I've tried to get better at like having, through schooling and like having my relationship with Jesus, I've grown like to have more self-awareness in things that I do. And so I think I'm getting better at not cutting people off and letting people finish their like what they're saying. Yeah. But I used to be so bad at that.
Yeah. And you have gotten better. I think slowing, for me, like I'm learning how to like slow down and like collect my thoughts, which is
process.
Yeah. Learning how to process my thoughts, so I can be a better communicator for you and for like other people whenever they ask for something too. That's something I know I need to practice on.
We're super
I've gotten better at it.
Yeah.
Still always room for improvement.
Yeah, but we're opposite in that. Like, I'm too vocal and too honest about things, and David's like not honest. Well, he's honest, but not like upfront enough. Blunt. Well, not blunt. I'm not just that, but just like in communicating, like saying what you want to say, like right there and then, or how you feel. Like, I'm good at using words to describe how I'm feeling.
Yeah. Well, yes, that is
and
something
saying
that
what I want to say.
I need to do. But oftentimes too, and I'm sure other people are the same way, where they get asked a question and they answer the question, but then later on you think about the conversation and you're like, oh, I should have said this, and Oh yeah, that too. And
Mm-hmm.
so
That happens with everybody though.
yeah, so
But yeah,
I think it happens to me a lot.
also we're like more intentional, I think, about talking about these
Yeah.
things. Like pillow talk, I really. Oh, okay, really quick. I'm just gonna cut in really, really quick. Is that okay?
You're cutting in on yourself.
No, cutting in on you.
Oh, go ahead.
Cutting on the topic. So, like, learn your spouse's love language or your boyfriend or girlfriend's love language, because if you are a Christian, you should be dating to get married. If you're not, you should still be dating to get married. Anyway, learn your partner's love language. Which is really weird. It's really weird that I give you like touch. Like I like to touch, but I don't like touch.
Mm.
That's not the way I like to receive love. The way I like to receive love is quality time, and I think acts of service, and then also a little bit of words of affirmation, but mostly quality time. So I'm very intentional about spending quality time, and I also like make sure if there's a day off that I have and I could either spend it with David or friends, I'm always gonna want to spend it with David.
I think quality time and acts of service are like 1 and 2. We like you don't like grand gestures, but you like when I open the door for you, or when I make the bed, when I voluntarily do the dishes.
Yeah, well, I don't have to ask you to.
No.
That's something David does that I really, really like, and it makes me feel special, is that he always, so I sleep with a bunch of blankets, like 3 blankets.
A lot.
And one on the inside, then the comforter, and then another one on top. And he always like, well, not always, but the majority of the time, he waits for me. But I take forever in the bathroom. Okay, I take forever in the bathroom. I do my skincare, my nighttime routine, yeah. So he'll come and he'll wait for me, and then he'll like put all the blankets on top of me. But that makes me feel very special when you do that.
Yeah. And putting lotion on your feet from time to time.
Sometimes.
From time to time.
But there was something we were talking about. Oh, yes, being intentional about communicating. Pillow talk. I love pillow talk. I like sleeping in. When David sleeps in with me, it makes me also feel special because he's a morning person and I'm not a morning person. I stay up late. But when he sleeps in with me, I love it. And then we just talk.
Yeah, I do think that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Next is trying to find a balance, specifically with ministry and marriage. So I love going to church. I love being a servant. Love being there for whatever the Lord has, right? And
a
lot.
He is super excited to always go to serve. Always excited to go to church.
It's my favorite thing to do.
I love church too. This is bad. Okay, I love Jesus. And because I love him so much, I want to serve. But then if I could stay home and spend time alone with Jesus or go serve, there's sometimes I prefer to stay home. But yeah, David loves being at church. And he loves being around people. I don't like being around people all the time. I need a break sometimes. Anyway, continue, David.
I lost my whole train of thought. Oh, yeah. So whenever like I first got saved, like our whole schedule was just full of like ministry events, and we were serving in multiple.
There was like a full year that we were, or a full year and a half that we were serving, or something like that. And then I started to go back to school, and then our schedule kind of changed. Yeah,
and it was great until it wasn't going great because my priorities were like ministry and not home, right?
Well, not home, but marriage. Yeah.
And but for other people, like they got like their families too, and they'll choose ministry over
or their job.
Family. Yeah, or their job.
Yeah.
And so having those priorities is something that I needed to find a balance in, and it's taken me a long time to do that. But and there's busy seasons, right? Like BBS is like the first example that comes to mind, where like that's just a busy week.
Yeah, well, we haven't done it the past 2 years.
No, but
we're not called for
I'm
BBS.
just saying as an example.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's like busy seasons for sure.
Yeah.
But just like trying to find that balance, like okay, let's have a date night, or let's have like a small trip or something, and to do that, and I think learning that my first priority is marriage, or is my family, which you're my family, and
after God.
Yes. So making like that's my main ministry, and then it sets the tone for me how to lead and how to serve
Yeah.
outside of our home.
Yeah.
Well,
I think like I'm probably too lenient with like serving and like separating the two.
Mhm.
Like
explain.
explaining. Oh, you want me to explain? Okay. Well, God comes first, always, right? And then you, and then school. Well, I'm not in school anymore, but that's what it was before. It was God, you, school, and then serving, and then like family and stuff, like other like my sisters and nieces and stuff like that. But now that I'm not in school, I'm still trying to figure out where it's gonna go. But yeah, I think I always like I push serving like on the back too much, I think.
You put it on the back burner.
Yeah, I put my this is gonna sound weird. I put my how I feel and my level of comfort before that, which is really bad. I shouldn't, because when you're a servant of Christ, you should allow God to take you out of your comfort zone. And a lot of times I'm like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. I don't want to talk to people.
There's too many people.
I know. Like, I always think about all these factors, and I really shouldn't.
You talk yourself out of it.
I talk myself out of it, yeah. But God, there's been times where I don't, and I'm like, I don't care how I feel, I'm going to do it, which is how I should be all the time. And in those times when I do not listen to how I feel, and I just, like, do what the Lord wants me to, breakthrough, like, I see like him moving in so many ways and him like maturing me and growing me. But then the next time it happens, or the next time I have an opportunity to, I'm like, I don't want to. Yeah.
And like that's why it's important to remember too. Like you're not there to serve yourself. You're there to serve God.
Yeah.
You're there to be His servant, and He will bless you for doing that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's for Him. It's bringing people. We talk about like bringing people to Him. Like that's one of those ways, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's also why when the Lord brought like YouTube and being in front of camera to me, I was like, I can do that. I can be in front of a camera and talk and like be myself. But like doing it in person, it's harder. And if you're an introvert, or if you're like me, where you're like, you rather be at home, your homebody, than around a bunch of people, then you understand what I'm talking about. And in those moments when you're there and God is telling you to do something, you don't think about, oh, last time, like, there was breakthrough. Last time, it wasn't that bad. Last time, God was with me. Like, He always is. Like, He says. Like, He promised. You don't think about that. You're just like, oh, no, I don't want to.
Real quick comment. You were talking about how, like, this is, like, perfect for you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm camera shy.
He is, and I'm just like, if it doesn't work, we can just do it again. And there's not really anybody in front of you staring at you where you can see them staring at you, like your mouth, staring. Like the way you talk. I don't know.
You're all watching the way I talk. You're all seeing my eyes.
All 8 of our subscribers, all 10 of our followers on Instagram.
Yeah, so the last one that I have, which I don't have any notes for, but it's just serving you. And it's something that I do sometimes, and before, like, I didn't realize that I would do these things. It was just me just doing it, right? Just either sometimes because I wanted to, but oftentimes because you would tell me. And I think learning that, again, going back to like ministry, like me being a servant to you is something that I'm always learning. I will always learn how to serve you. And by serving you is showing you that I love you and that I care about you. And I know that I need to do a better job of that, right? Like, this is a great example right now of like, they see this and it looks decent, but they don't see the opposite side where it looks
our empty shelf.
Yeah.
In our desk, we're trying to transition to a media room.
Yeah, so little things like that, little things that I know you want to do, and just like being able to do those things, or being willing to do those things is something that I have learned and will learn and continue to learn from now until we meet Jesus.
I have some things too. Things
You
that
can
I've
share some
learned.
things because
So
these are
some
my last. That was
okay.
my last one.
Some things that I've learned are to respect you as my husband. And there's been times, even like up to 2 weeks ago, where I may have like said something making fun of you, you know, so like not making fun of my husband. I feel like I used to do that all the time. And there's been times because, like, okay, everybody, a lot of people like David more than they like me. Okay, I can tell. And so whenever I feel like they hold him like super high and I'm like right here. And so when someone's like, oh yeah, David's like a really good husband, I'm like, yeah, yeah, you know. But he is a really great husband. It's just in those moments, I'm like, oh, you don't know what he does to me. You don't know how he treats me. Well, he doesn't treat me bad. He's like
I'm
a
not perfect.
phenomenal. Yeah, he's not perfect. But like, I'm just like, oh, like, he didn't take out the trash, you know. Where God convicted me the other week, with last week or the week before.
Did you talk about this last week?
I didn't talk about it. I didn't
Okay.
specifically say what had happened because it had happened again. I don't know if you remember, but anyway,
Yeah, I'm sure.
we shared this in the last video. But Dave, our trash is gets picked up every Thursday. Okay, and there was he'd done it 2 weeks in a row where he didn't take the trash out, and I was like super annoyed, and I was like, every Wednesday night, take the trash out. It's not that hard. And then I go around the corner because my family lives really close. My mom lives on the street behind us. And my mom was taking out the trash. And I was like, Dad didn't take out the trash? And she was like, no, he forgot. And I was like, oh my God, I was so convicted. Like, I'm over here judging my husband for not taking the trash out when my dad didn't take out the trash. And like, I'm sure he knows to take out the trash too. But yeah, God really convicted me like, what are you doing? Okay, you're not perfect. Don't expect your husband to be perfect. And so yeah, respecting him, not talking bad about him in front of people, not making fun of him in front of people, which I have done. Okay, but I think I'm getting better at it. Also, whenever I'm right in a situation, so I'm just gonna say the example. I'm gonna say the example. So David's in school, right? And I just graduated school, so I know how school works. Okay, I know when you should register. I know you need to look at your syllabus ahead of time so you know when assignments are due. And so I told all of these things to David. And did he listen? No. But instead of like in the past where I would have been like in his face, like, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, I told you, blah, 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 for like days, I showed him grace.
You did.
I did. And I was like, oh, you didn't register for classes? Because I think it was like already August and you registered for classes.
No, yeah. So I had registered and then I didn't pay for the classes, but I thought that my financial aid was something happened with that.
Yeah.
So I got dropped from those classes.
Yeah, if you don't pay, you get dropped.
Yeah, so.
He thought he was still enrolled, and I was like, baby, it says dropped. So he learned, and I've learned sometimes I just gotta let him learn on his own. Same thing with me. There's times I'm wrong and he's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I think just that was good. Learning how to show grace.
A lot of grace, yeah.
And neither of us are perfect.
Yeah.
I think I want to go back to the being empathetic thing and talking about like just hearing you. Like whenever we do pray, we do allow for Jesus to like move through that. But I think also like it's letting you fight the battle on your own. And the same thing for me, right? Like if I'm going through something, like I can't be there to I can't be there to like fix the problem.
You can't make me like you can't even make me pray sometimes.
Yeah. But to like be the one to pray for you and pray with you whenever you don't feel like it, like the same thing for me. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Don't don't feel so proud to not pray, because I feel like that's really a thing. I was gonna say something.
It's kind of like going to the gym, which we experienced yesterday, right? Whenever like we didn't want to go to the gym yesterday, but we went.
A lot of times we don't want to go to the gym.
And a lot of times we don't want to go to the gym. But we went, and we might not even feel good while we're doing the workout, and we don't see the effects of it, but it still beneficial. That's what prayer
Oh
is
yeah,
like.
yeah, prayers
Like,
like that.
even when we don't want to pray and we still pray, is still letting God know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what's going on, but
It's just,
we're letting, or we're sharing.
we're giving our cares to Him. We're giving our anxieties to Him, and you do really feel peace and relief. I saw a post the other day on Facebook, by the way. They had said like all religions, if all religions claim to provide peace, why can't all religions give peace or something? And I was like, because all religions don't give peace. Only having a relation, like not religion alone, but having a relationship with Jesus gives you peace. Okay? But I didn't want to say nothing. I was like, I'll be quiet. There was something you were talking about when you were talking about listening to me, right? You were just talking about that right now. But there was specifically a situation in where you were putting ministry before me. Can I say that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
I'm sure I do.
Okay, so like you were, I was going through it bad. Like,
oh no, you can't talk about. I'm kidding.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
I wasn't really gonna hit you. I was just like, okay. So there was a time when I wouldn't really call it depression, but it was like oppression, right? But it was like I was constantly being tormented. Like the darkness was so tangible. I just felt so alone all the time. And it was a Friday night, and David was serving on Friday nights. I think you were playing bass, and he was going every Friday. Oh, and then he was also serving every Wednesday. And then
I was legit
Monday,
like
Wednesday,
5-6 times a week.
Yeah, 5 or
6 times a
Was
week.
it that many times? Oh, because y'all have practice on Thursdays.
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah, so I was like alone. I was in school at this time, so school can put a lot of stress on you. So I was like going through that, and I remember I was like just feeling just super alone, and I was like, David, can you please stay home? Like, I don't want to be alone right now, because I was having thoughts. And before Christ, I didn't know where the thoughts were coming from. I thought they were just my own thoughts. But after Christ, I was able to discern, like, this is not me. This is not God. This is this is demonic. These are not my thoughts. So the thoughts were like, they weren't like so straightforward, like, delete yourself. They were like, oh, let's just like end it, or let's just take a bunch of pills, like that. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And so I was having thoughts like that, and I was like, David, please stay with me, I feel so alone. And he was like, no, I have to go to ministry, like I have to go serve, blah blah blah. And I was just like, wow, like he doesn't love me. And again, those are lies that the enemy is telling me, but I was believing them in those moments because I was very vulnerable. He left, and then the thoughts got louder and louder, and I don't want to cry, but I want to like laugh, cry. I don't know. Anyway, so
because you're past, you've grown from the situation.
Yeah.
But you want to be serious about the subject.
Yeah, be serious about the subject. Very serious. So I remember looking at the pills and thinking like, no, I don't want to take a bunch of pills. I know what that means. And then I had another thought like, well, then let's just leave. Let's run away. And I was like, that sounds like a good idea. Like in that moment, I was like, that sounds like a good idea. I could do that. And so I like booked a hotel for like somewhere. It wasn't that far, but
it was far.
It was far, but it wasn't that far. And I wasn't gonna tell anybody. And I don't remember what I told you.
I
was texting David.
You had just texted me that you were leaving.
Yeah, I was leaving.
And
where I don't know if you knew what that meant, but you were probably like yeah. But in my head, I was like, he doesn't care about me. I hope he felt that kind of thing. But then he got home. He ended up leaving service and coming home while I was packing my stuff, and then tried to. I was so offended, by the way. Where you weren't wrong in doing it.
Wait, I think you're crossing stories.
No, it's the same story.
Okay.
It's the same story. He tried to cast a demon out of me. It's the same. It was the same story. I remember.
I was a baby Christian. I'm learning.
Yeah, he tried to cast a demon out of me, and I was like, these are real feelings I'm having. These are real thoughts that I'm having. Like, I know you think that I'm like have a demon in me, but these are like
which goes back to like
yes, it can be like I do believe yes, those were demonic thoughts.
What for me goes back to trying to fix the problem instead of just
yeah. I think if you would have like prayed for me, I think I probably would have been more receptive.
Yeah.
But instead, you were like,
"Get out of here!"
You were like, "I command any demon to leave leave her. And I was just like so offended in the moment, okay? If you've gone through the same thing, then you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, I was just like, oh, and then I left, and he didn't know where I went. And I think he did tell some people, and I was kind of mad about that. I told you about it, like, please don't tell people. Like, it's okay if you tell my mom, but like other people, I just didn't want everybody to know about it. But yeah, listen to your partner. Don't put ministry above your spouse. I think this is, I just, on a level where like you're totally neglecting your spouse or your partner. Just have a balance. And then if you don't know how to do that, then ask God. He will help you. But his word says it plain and simple.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yes, when you pray, discern what your answers are, because you don't know if you don't read your Bible, how do you know it's from God, right?
Some other things that I've learned are to be more submissive, to let you lead, because you are the man and you are the head of the household, and which is really hard because I didn't want to a lot of times at first. I think you know that.
Yeah.
And then I had really high expectations for having a husband. Like, I was just like, oh, he's gonna know how to do everything, he's gonna be super handy, and then he wasn't. But you've learned a lot.
I have learned a lot.
When I shut my mouth and just allowed him and just prayed, I have in my journal like, Lord, help David to like know how to do things in the house. I'm sure you prayed for me to know how to cook and like cook more, but like he's fixed like the sink, the washer, the lights, a bunch of things, the disposal.
Oh, your dad.
Yeah, but the water heater, the gas, like he's done so many things.
Thank God.
And God has answered my prayers. But also, I advise you to keep a prayer journal, just in general, so that you, not that it's like a checklist or like God's not a genie, but just so you're like, God is faithful. Like how many, like I can't even count.
Yeah, so you can reflect and be like,
yeah,
okay, like God is real because He answered all of these prayers.
Yeah, I have so many answered prayers.
So many testimonies.
So many. But yeah, so those are just a few things we've learned since being married. I think we're like, it's good on time. We're trying not to keep the videos super long. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's it.
We love you guys.
We love you guys. We hope you have a good day.